in traffic in New York City on a cell phone talking with you. So,
okay, well, we appreciate you taking the time.
I'm at a double disadvantage, so I'm going to actually step off because I really can't contribute to the discussion you have.
Okay, Chief, we'll bring you back and we know more about the situation. Thank you for taking the time with us. To the rest of our viewers, what we're seeing right now, obviously, very big flames engulfing at least 1/3 to 1/2 of this cabin. Not only does it abbreviate the time frame, and as you can see, the fire seems to be spreading out now. We've been told devices were used in a tactical operation. We thought it was tear gas, but they could have been, we're being told, something called flash bangs. They create a big burst of light to disorient somebody, and that is something you do to initiate a move on somebody else. And then a SWAT team, we're told, entered this building. But now there are flames arising from the cabin. We're also told that ammunition has started to detonate within the cabin, perhaps because of the heat of the fire. So now the questions that are raised, certainly this abbreviates the time frame, Anderson, for how long this can play out. But is this SWAT team in this house? Hopefully not. Is Dorner in this cabin now? Hopefully not. Hopefully everybody is safe in this, but it looks very dramatic.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't look like there are any assets that are actually fighting the flames, fighting the fire. They've had several hours to position folks all around this cabin. But because the suspect inside the cabin shot twice at officers, in fact, killing one sheriff's deputy over the last several hours from this cabin or from the rear of the cabin, clearly they have not wanted to get too close. And whatever assets they have in place, again, it's not clear whether they are still in that structure, whether they have pulled out of that structure, or whether the suspect is still inside there. Choosing not to come out, or has been shot, has been injured, or has already been removed by the tactical team that was in there. We simply don't have the information. We're getting drips and drabs of information through law enforcement sources, through various sources of ours. But again, no official word on exactly what is going on. But you see the images as we are seeing them live. Clearly a large fire in this cabin, a cabin which, according to the owner of the cabin, or the woman who believes she's the owner of the cabin, Candy Barton, was supposed to be empty starting on Monday. No phone, no internet, no cable service. We don't know if the cabin has electricity. She had said there were no firearms in that cabin. We also had an earlier report, and we just heard it about 20 minutes or so ago, from a friend of the person who had their vehicle carjacked, allegedly by the suspect, saying that the suspect emerged out of the woods, pointing one weapon, a rifle, at the owner of the vehicle, got the owner of the vehicle and the owner's dog out of the vehicle, and then took off. That's what precipitated all of this. He ended up at a roadblock, engaged in a shootout with some deputies from Fish and Wildlife, and then entered this cabin. Doesn't seem to be a cabin that he had pre-positioned or pre-planned to enter. It just seems to be kind of a cabin that was nearby this Highway 38 that this altercation began on.
Tom Fuentes, you still with us on the phone?
Yes, I am.
Any new information about what is causing what we're seeing, this fire engulfing the cabin?
Not specific information, but the fact that I was advised earlier that tear gas had been launched would in many cases initiate a fire. Tear gas, it's actually a misnomer. It's not a gas. It's little particles that irritate the mucous membranes of your body, and the way those particles arrive is by smoke. So tear gas is actually a smoke grenade that's incendiary. It goes off, there's a fire, the fire creates smoke, the smoke carries the particles, which cause the person to not be able to function properly. Very high likelihood of fire when you initiate tear gas grenades into a residence like that or into a wooden building, and so that's usually a big concern when they try to use that. I think that it wouldn't have been launched ordinarily if they weren't fairly positive that there's no hostages, that it was only the subject himself, Dorner, in that cabin. So they would initiate the tear gas, and then, they may be waiting out for the building to burn down, or they may have rushed in there to just absolutely be sure that there wasn't another innocent person in there that might need to be rescued before that building burned to the ground.
Yeah, Tom, we'd had a report that a tactical unit, a SWAT team, had actually entered the structure. If there is fire in the structure, would they then pull out? Is there a procedure for this?
Well, sure. Once they determine, if the subject's in there and he's dead, they would try to maybe pull his body out of there. If there's any hostages in, try to rescue them. But again, they wouldn't have launched this, I think, if they weren't very positive that there were no hostages. It was only the subject himself in there. Launched the tear gas, try to bring this to an end before darkness, And then once that they've launched that in there, if there's no further shots coming out of there, try to make the assault and go after them.
So now it's basically back to waiting to find out. Obviously, there are much bigger concerns now than when it was just a waiting game. Questions about who's in the cabin. Are they safe? Did they get out? Obviously, the only outcome here that everybody wants is for everybody to be safe, even the suspects.